Live again here inside the Noman School of Visual Effects green screen hangar, fresh off the foothills of another stellar panel discussion / artist demo. We basically just sat through a wonderful presentation with Max Ulichney,
Yep.
right? Is that correct?
Ulichney,
that's correct.
that's right. Yep.
Ulichney. And he's here with Elastic Studios, along with a couple of compatriots and colleagues. We've got Christian and Joe. So welcome.
It really couldn't have been done without these guys. So I'm really happy to have them in here for this section for sure.
This is right out of the gate. A really admirable thing to do is bring on your friends who helped to make it a reality. It's somewhat the theme today, where it's been teamwork reigns supreme, and I think that we're seeing that.
Totally.
You know, with from experienced to newer artists, there's this camaraderie that I think is prevalent in our industry. There was a couple of scripted questions, but I think we'll go freestyle from here.
Please.
Which we're capable of doing. So let's talk a little bit about the latest Adidas spot. We had a as most of you around the world probably still reeling in the shock of some of those games at the FIFA World Cup. Let's talk a little bit about the Adidas spot that Elastic did, and some of the, I mean, you gave a really great demo on how some of the, you're welcome, how some of the assets were produced. I thought there was really a new, interesting way to cut things up, literally.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the project and get a little deeper into that.
It was certainly a weird process. I mean, it was something I kind of wanted to mention is, you look at the boards and you're like, and the references and everything else, and you're like, wow, how do we do this? It's just the blank page on this one was really intimidating. And especially, as you're doing the concept art, you just push more and you're like, hey, that looks cool. But now we have to build it, and we have to build it for 5 World Cup players with eagles and crocodiles and Native Americans and Aztecs and God knows how many characters. I don't know if we
lions and tigers, bears, and even crocodiles at some point.
Absolutely.
And some arrows thrown in. One of the more electric, not to take anything away from anyone else's spot over the course of the summer. We did see a lot of really interesting commercial attempts to sort of advertise the World Cup, but I think that yours was, in a way, sort of pretty electric,
Thank you.
Comparatively speaking. I mean, there was some that were reliant upon sort of cartoon assets and things, but yours kind of stayed within the realm of something that was maybe like a fictitious reality that could be possible.
Totally. We wanted it to feel as if you could find it in a modern art gallery.
Right.
Mature and kind of aggressive.
That would be a good word. Yeah, mature
and heroic, sort of, and to pull together the seriousness of the subject matter. We didn't want to treat it lightly. We want to respect the players and the teams and the energy that the fans have for it. We wanted to treat it like, an adult, I was going to say adult topic, but that sounds wrong. But you know what I mean?
Right. No, I do get it.
You want it to feel legitimate.
It's a level of seriousness that was maybe not so playful, but kind of, hey, this is trying to capture the intensity probably of the moment of being a player.
Absolutely.
Because I think you really did that as someone who used to play a lot of soccer. As a point in my life when I was a semi-professional soccer player back in Canada, and there was, I think that you captured the idea of that moment right before someone really nails it and puts the ball in the net.
Yeah.
I think there is that intention that is
we're
communicated.
Trying to capture that last second right before something absolutely devastating happens.
Where everything goes quiet.
Yes.
And, on the one end of the spectrum, I think that there is the glory. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's the spilled guts.
Totally.
And that sick feeling of like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah. Or I just got bit in the shoulder.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so you fellows were in on this this wonderful project. Let's talk a little bit about your roles in the overall sort of scheme of things.
Modeling, taking the concept to fruition, basically. A lot of collaboration. Joe P would find a brush, he'd show us. I would find a technique, I'd show them, and just trying to be as truthful to the concept as possible.
Okay.
I mean, the concept was so great. And just, really nailed the patterns. You know, you have to stick with the patterns for Adidas and that sort of thing. Right. So, and then aesthetically for it all to tie together, and each one to be individual in its own breaking up. So,
but be consistent through 4 different modelers as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of collaboration, a lot of work. Obviously, ZBrush handles high poly so well. I mean, there's just no way to do it without it.
No, it's impossible to do.
You can take the mic,
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
It's technically impossible to do a project like this without ZBrush. It's just high poly and the speed of it. It was a bunch of the tools were like really amazing. It was like it was custom made for this project. It was really weird.
Right.
It was a lot of late nights, but it was worth it in the end. And For me, the biggest thing that I loved about this project and this spot was the teamwork. It was just amazing. Everybody just was like on their top game and helping each other out. I've never learned so much in such a little time, and I had to teach people what I learned. Like if I learned something like this second, I had to go around and tell everybody.
Right, yeah, you need to know this, right?
Immediately, because it was really intense.
I think it's fitting. I mean, you're working on a project that has at its core the idea of teamwork, because to score a goal, there's 11 people on the pitch for one side, and there's the sum of the parts. There's like this thing that transpires at the end of all of this sort of chaos is brought on by this group of people. It's very similar. We're involved in a team sport in a way. I think being sort of in the pipeline of working in the modeling, yeah, it's very collaborative, and there's a lot of glory in that. So we're gonna come back this way. I want to talk to you a little bit about, because you guys you can keep it, because I think no, that's fine. Hey, like I said, we're doing a freestyle here. We had somewhat. We're gonna just keep on rolling as the day has continued. So tell us a little bit about how you got started, because you didn't have the opportunity to sit on the stage today there in the main room. Tell us a little bit about where you got started in this business and what drove you to this point.
Honestly, I still remember the moment. It was watching Toy Story.
There you go. Okay.
Saw Toy Story, fell in love with CG, and then after that, I was like, that was like my aha moment. I knew that's what I wanted to do for like a living.
Right.
And once I saw that movie, it changed my life completely. And now I get to do stuff like that, which is amazing.
I hope the camera is capturing this. This man glows when he says this. He's got this huge smile as if he's in the toy aisle in 1987, and they're giving away free G.I. Joes. You got the biggest grin. I appreciate that. It's a lot of fun.
He brings that enthusiasm.
Yeah,
to the office.
that's amazing. You've got a great cosmic spirit to work with. It's a real valuable thing. I want to say, actually, there's a lot of people on the East Coast that believe, because I'm originally from Toronto, in Canada, a lot of people believe that I work for Pixar. It's just like a running joke. It's like my aunts and my mother say, "Oh, he works for Pixar." No, I don't work for Pixar.
My grandmother told people
that.
Right,
he works for Pixar. Everybody's worked at Pixar at some point. I mean, so carrying on here along the team.
Everyone thinks I'm in animation, so
Right.
Same thing.
So same sort of questioning. What's
Well, first of all, these guys are great. I mean, Max is one of the best concept guys. 2D, 3D.
We're going to talk about that. He's not off the hot seat.
Yeah, it's amazing. You saw the stuff up there, so it's great working with him. And then Joe's just great at ZBrush, great at sharing techniques. And you have to. I mean, this project for me, there was a lot in ZBrush I hadn't explored.
Right.
Just through production, you're in Maya a lot. You just don't get a chance to use everything, and we literally used probably everything on this one.
Wow.
So to get up to speed personally on all the new features in ZBrush was great for me. But I started at a Gnomon demonstration at SIGGRAPH like 2001.
No kidding.
Thought it was something I wanted to do.
Wow.
Got into it. Really never liked Maya, and then Bay Ray doing a ZBrush presentation here at Gnomon kind of got me into ZBrush. Was a hobbyist for a while.
Okay.
Sometimes more serious about it than others, and then finally kind of put the pedal to the metal and.
Wow.
Yeah, and then now I'm here. So
that's fascinating stuff.
Great place,
You're like another byproduct of the Gnomon experience, myself included.
For sure.
I mean, there's a few of us that have come from that background. Just a couple
Clearly
of guys sitting.
The best DVDs and all that.
Yeah, and they're all behind us. You can see that.
Exactly.
People at home, there's a whole collection. We are actually sitting. It's worthy to note. We're sitting inside of the Gnomon School of Visual Effects store, which is chock full of resources and a lot of great art on the other side of the wall that a lot of people can't see. Some really great sketches that were really distracting me all day.
We just saw the galleries.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
So it's a hub for creatives like ourselves, and it's like a mecca for all of us. We find our way here, and that's how I stumbled into this, myself included. I was able to discover Pixologic here on the grounds of the Gnomon School of Visual Effects. So,
nice.
Where better?
Where better, right? Yeah. I mean, smoking a cigarette at the right time can be a benefit. Kids at home, don't smoke.
I always felt Gnomon
might change your life,
right?
Like Gnomon DVDs always took like the best local guys in LA, and they would put out the DVDs. So the artwork, the quality it wasn't just technical. It was like the highest.
It's like digitizing that guild system. It's the closest thing you're going to get to like antiquity, where you say, "Hey, I need to sit with a master." Okay, well, there's a whole wall of resources as well as an online presence. So that's something that's been really cool.
You see techniques if you weren't in production.
Yeah.
Or even if you are in production, you may see a technique that you didn't
You may capture something new, right?
For sure.
Maybe, you know, and then not to mention the events that happen. You know, we've been sort of lucky enough to do a lot of UGMs with them, and there's just you know, who knows who's in the audience and the shared features you get. I mean, there's little tidbits and tricks that you're going to pick up over the course of the weekend. People at home, pay attention. You know, you never know what you're going to get and who's going to show up either. Surprise visitors, but I think that that's telling as well. So on to the gentleman here at hand, Max.
Yes.
The beginning, you've told us a little bit about it. I want to touch on, I've stalked you more than the other fellows, which was, you know, let's get to this one question that's nagging me. You showed a lot of illustration work up there.
I did, yeah.
I think it speaks volumes of your artistic capacity at the diverse nature of your drawings. When someone looks at that, they say, this is a mature designer, someone who can adapt. And I think that that's been my privilege over the course of the last days to sit with a lot of you fellows who are extremely adaptable in a very short amount of time. Tell us a little bit about illustration. I know you're a computer guy, but...
Yeah, you know, it was illustration that got me into, well, everything, really. It was, you know, I have never stopped drawing, really. And I think it feeds back into ZBrush and sculpting and being able to model. It's really just observation for me. It's like a, you know, fish can't stop moving, right? So I always have to be drawing or being creative, and it's just my nature. It's just the only speed I have. Right. And it, you know, that sort of eye and that observation is the only, it informs everything I do.
Right.
Whether it's drawing, it's just a different way of expressing it and different tool.
Okay.
Computers are a totally valid way for me to get that stuff out, where, you know, it might be a logo, it might be a car, it might be, you know, like things like Adidas, or like the things that we showed tonight, ranges from cartoony to serious. I've hit on a lot of like almost careers along my path. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to be a monster makeup artist.
I want to interrupt you. I want to say that illustratively speaking, from some of the figurative work I saw, there was no reason why you couldn't have. I mean, it's sort of a kindred spirit in that way. Sure. It's sort of, it was there. If you haven't checked out his work, please do. Yeah, I think it's something to be said about that.
You know, it was just, it's just sort of whatever strikes my fancy at the time. And you know, it's, but like I said, it's just all observation and learning. But it was, you know, it was Jurassic Park for me. You know, it was Crash McCreary in the Jurassic Park making of book that I was like, monster makeup, and there used to be Movie Magic on TV.
Okay, yeah.
On, like, I think it was Discovery. I couldn't get enough of those. It was, you know, so like it's pushed and pulled my career in a lot of ways. But I always loved monster makeup growing up, and then got into computers, and it sort of pushed me in this direction. And if it's, you know, if it's good enough for Rick Baker, it's good enough for me, right?
That's well said. I mean? And you were here obviously earlier to see Scott and John from Legacy and hear their talk. And
well, I saw the live stream at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were excellent.
So there you go. A byproduct of the live streaming event here, people.
That's
he was not here yet, but he was live streaming.
Watching,
not to be missed.
That's right.
A couple of other things before we get going here. I would like to talk about the advertising field is one, it seems, that is, television is changing. Let's call it that. We've heard this throughout the day already on day one, that people are talking about how, you know, movies have shifted. We heard the guys from Legacy talking about this ad nauseum. They were saying that, you know, movies are very much changing, and the way that movies are made is very much a byproduct of business decisions. And we can all speak freely about this at this point. It's no secret. There's a lot of remakes and et cetera. The advertising world, I feel, over the course of the last couple of years has evolved to be very sophisticated in its delivery of messages and its content, where you're getting these very short and very, very detailed descriptions of products in a way that is so electric and condensed in such a short time. How does that affect you as artists working in such a short time frame?
I'd like to hear what you guys think, but I have just one quick thing to say. I always feel like what I like about commercial work is, you know, you can burn really brightly, but only for a short time. Yeah. And I love that you can do things like Adidas. You couldn't do that for a film. Well, A, what would that look like? But B, you'd want to kill yourself at the end. You can't do that. You can only hit these highs for so long, and you can only look at it for so long too. It's beautiful for 60 seconds. Right. What does, you know, a couple minutes of that look like? You just kind of tune it out. So I think commercial work lets you get some really great spikes of effort. Even, you know, that's what I love about it. You know, this was 6 weeks of modeling, so it was really intensive. But you know, a lot of times you only have a couple weeks, but in those couple weeks you can just hit it so hard and really just push yourself and learn a whole new technique in like a week. Right. And you can't do that in film. And I think I mean, that's not to take anything away from the.
Well, you get a longer window. I mean, a commercial is like, I need that
thing.
yesterday because of the lifespan of the lifespan of either, if it's in this case an event, let's call it the World Cup, or a product. Like a product is only going to be available for a window of time, and so that the commercialization of that product is going to be, you know, condensed to a point where it's like, hey, we're not trying to make this Epic of Gilgamesh type thing where it's going to be around forever and kids are going to watch it for, you know, 20 odd years. You know, this is a moment, and it's going to, you know, it's just as a finger is snapped, it's past.
Exactly.
You know, what have you done for me lately? You know, yesterday's it.
It means we make more commercials.
Right.
Yeah,
it just makes me move on with more commercials.
Exactly.
And the attention span of people today is also shorter, to be completely honest.
I mean, the great thing about Elastic and A52, which is the CG arm of Elastic.
Okay, so that's A52 is a CG arm if you're listening at home.
In the visual effects.
Right.
You can work there for a year and work on 6 different spots, all different. One could be realistic, one could be cartoony, one could be stylized. And again, you can use those, you know, in 1 year you can get so much experience. You know, ZBrush on one, maybe you're using Mario on something else, or it's a combination, or it's a new technique that 6 months ago you couldn't use.
Some live action mixed in with all of these things,
I mean,
hybridization.
They do everything, which is a great thing about the company, and I think also great with being in commercials. Like if I've been on films before, and you can kind of hang on something for 3 months, 6 months.
Right.
But for me as an artist, it gives you just more experience, you know.
So you feel that there's this investment of time and energy that is benefiting you as an artist in the long run when you're working in that kind of environment. You get to
there's something about the short timeline too, where you really have to get a product out. You gotta
not so much futzy as they say. You know.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, usually it starts, you know, hey, let's explore, and then a week into it, you're like, pedal to the metal. Right. But yeah, I mean, that's what I enjoy about it. Okay. What about you, Joe?
That about exploring, it's kind of funny. I know for this Adidas project, like the first 3 days, we didn't even do a single model. It was more about like getting a flow of how to make things, how to build things. We were just experimenting. We went through so many experiments, one after another, and it was one of those things where it was literally 3 days of like experiment, fail, until we finally found even a semi-usable workflow. And even then, as the project kept on going, we kept on refining it over and over again and finding new ways of doing it. Like the first model I did to the last one are like almost like 2 different modelers did that. It's a completely different look.
A righteous path to a glorious ending.
It was.
Say, wow, we really pulled that ball through the sand on this one.
Yeah. About commercials, it's I love it because it's quick work, it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of changes. It could go from something really photoreal to something really cartoony. This year I've worked on 4 or 5 different commercials already, and each one of them has been so different from the last. Like one of the funner ones that I worked on this year was FEMA with Max over here.
Oh wow, okay.
And too bad he didn't show anything. Super cartoony, looked 2D. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, no ZBrush, so I didn't share it.
Hey, that's all right. You know, I'm happy to hear it. I mean, that you guys are pushing the envelope. What you've said is interesting because it works out or equates to almost a project per month. If you really think about it, you know, give or take a couple of weeks, you know, that's the sort of thing. I want to draw attention to one thing. I was getting the spinning finger, which means that we're almost out of time here live from the Noman School of Visual Effects. I want to see if we can get a product shot of the special Adidas shoe that was produced in conjunction with the designs for the commercial. Go ahead and just show it off here. May I?
Yeah, please.
This is the shoe that was produced for the in conjunction with the spot, and if you can, I'm just going to turn your ankle without putting him some sort of AMA hold. This shoe is a byproduct of that advertising campaign, a very limited edition. Try to get yours online. Again, on behalf of the guys from Elastic, thanks everybody for watching. We'll take it back to the main stage for the first ever Pixologic Summit with our very own Pixologic team. Take it away, Paul.